If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all my latest videos.
Well, hey guys, welcome to Life at Gaz. Today I'm fishing down here on the Gynn wall. It's westerly, it's only a small tide though, it's only 7 metre, but it is blowing it around about gusts of 30 mile an hour. So with any luck, that surf which is just out there behind me is actually going to make it over that bank and it's going to bring the fish in. Now I may just stand here all the way up to high water without a bite, but usually if I don't get a bite up to high water on the ebb, that surf there will die down and the fish will start coming in. But these sessions can be hit and miss, so fingers crossed we are going to see some fish tonight.
So to start with tonight, let's look at the rigs I'm using. Now, normally I'll fish different rigs on both rods unless I'm specifically targeting something, but looking at these weather conditions I didn't think small fish would hold up to it too much, so I decided to go for the 4-0 hooks with the long shank on the clip down rigs and see what I could winkle out with these guys. When it comes to casting in these weather conditions, you need to put a little bit more weight on. So I've up to 7 ounce weights, and why I put the 7 ounces on is it actually holds the momentum in the weight a little bit more, and it helps it to push through the wind to give me a little bit more on my distance. If I went down to say a 6 or a 5, they tend to slow down a lot more and the cast obviously then becomes shorter. So now I'm out and fishing, let's go through the bait options that I've got. Now in my box of tricks today, everything's frozen, so I've got some razor shell, got some squid, some sand eel, and I've also got some frozen lug as well. Now just as I suspected, throughout the entirety of the flood it was biteless, and I'll show you a little bit of the weather conditions whilst we're here, because if you look at where I've zoomed into, you can see this big black sculpture thing. Now that moves around, and that being over as far as that you don't see all the time, so it shows me that the wind is coming full westerly in. Now being the fact that it's only a small tide, this is why I think that the fish weren't coming in, but once that tide changes it does pick up. So being biteless throughout the flood, I thought okay, well it's time to edge my bets. I kept one rod fishing, the style I was fishing already, and on the other side I decided to drop down to a 3-hook flapper rig with size 2-0 hooks, so if there are small fish out there it'll give me a good chance of hooking into them. Something I was also contending with all night was the movement in my rod tips. Because the sea was so choppy, then it made it incredibly hard to keep those rod tips still. But don't worry, it is easy enough to distinguish a bite in weather like this, because the bites tend to not follow the same pattern as the waves, and that's what I tend to look for. And here you can see that first bite, the waves pull down, up, and then all of a sudden you get a little knock in the middle of that somewhere, and that's what I'm looking for. Now when it's rough like this, a fish rolling off the hooks happens quite often, and this is because the tension changes. So you'll see as I'm bringing the fish in, I'm not trying to bully it through the waves when the waves are pulling back, but I'm going quite rapid when there's very slack water, and I'm trying to keep an even pressure on that fish the entire time, all the way in. And the first fish coming up over the bank just here is a whiting. Now you may notice that on this hook length it's also got a glow in the dark bead. Whiting in particular seem to like chasing these things about, and they do encourage the fish to come on. Now with the tide being so small, releasing this fish would be quite difficult, hanging him down on the weight because the water was too far away from the bottom of the wall itself. But with it being as rough as this, I do have another way of doing it, which is to lower him down onto the wall, try and swing him out as far as I can and gently lower him into contact with the wall itself. Then wait for the wave to wash him off of the weight, and then he swam off absolutely fine. Not long after the first fish, that same rod and same rig found the second fish of the night as well. So obviously changing out to that 3-hook flapper rig clearly has paid off for me tonight. And the second fish over the wall turned out to be another whiting as well, and again was caught on that glow in the dark bead up on that top hook. Now this little guy, he went back exactly the same way as the first one, clipped to the weight, left on the wall and let the wave wash him off. And once I got myself into the ebb about an hour after, that tide had really started to die down and the wave action really diminished, so it made seeing bites a lot easier. Eventually, after around about 4 hours of waiting, the long rod with the bigger hook size on it and that clip down finally went, and this turned out to be the biggest fish of the night. Not a monster, but still happy to see him. Now when bringing this fish in, he pulled just a little bit too far up towards my right hand side, so I changed direction and walked over the top of the steps and tried to bring him up the other side. And the reason for this is the fact that there's actually quite a lot of snags at that steps, lots of bits of metal poking out, and I didn't want to lose any gear or leave the fish tied up down there. Not that the fish would have stayed on there anyway, because as soon as I got him over the wall, as you can see here, he dropped straight off the hook. But still came home for me dinner. Well, it all gone quiet and I packed up my first rod, which was the rod with that 4-0 long shanked hook out on it, and I left the other one just sitting there whilst that one was packed up. When I picked this one up and brung it in, I also brought in my final fish of the night, which was also my second species of the night as well. And here he is, the final fish, this little 5-bearded rocklin. Now I don't know what is going on with these guys this year, but in the previous years if I catch 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 in a whole year, then that's not bad. But I don't go out and target them, but it seems that every session I seem to catch one of these guys every single time I'm out.
Well guys, I didn't like the intro I filmed out on the beach, so I come back here to have another go at it. And essentially you can see the benefit there of switching the rigs up. I did go out with the intention of seeing if there was anything bigger about. Clearly there wasn't, so I dropped those hook sizes and that paid off. It saved me blanking. I ended up with 4 fish. But anyway, if you guys have liked this session, make sure you hit the subscribe button down here. Check out my latest videos just there, and of course my playlist as always up top.